Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming to our chat that we're going to be having about making games for the maximum monetization. We have some amazing people here that I think everybody will have a great time learning from. We've got people here who are just starting to get into the industry, and we have some longtime guys here as well to give us all a great opportunity to know what's working for you and what could be working for you in the future. So. Let's go ahead and we can talk about each person and they can introduce themselves to the rest of us. I'll go ahead and I'll start with Krystian Strauss. He is the head of overseas business development at OpenMediation. How are you doing?
Hi, everybody. Hi, Luke. I'm doing well. Let me introduce myself. So I'm Krystian Strauss, head of overseas business development at OpenMediation. So in OpenMediation, our main product is an open source code mediation platform, which of course, not only developers can use our SaaS platform, but also they can create their in-house mediation using our code. But this is mostly, I'm actually involved in different programs, helping developers like our Xtime Accelerator program, which is supporting mobile game developers in every aspect regarding the game development and publishing. And also we're organizing Indie Clash contests, which is kind of showcasing different games. And recently are involved with our partner IGDA, organizing Xtime Academy, which is a custom design mentorship program, also helping developers to create successful games with assistance for world-class professionals. So yeah, we've been helping throughout different programs developers with monetization. So I think this topic is pretty familiar to me.
That's great. Next, we have Don Reilley. He is the EVP of Publisher Relationships at Scuti. How are you doing?
Hi, everybody. Today, Luke, thank you. I'm doing very well. It's great to be on this panel this morning. So I'm a 22-year veteran of the gaming space. I've spent my entire career in media and sponsorship sales, both on the traditional game side and on the esports side of the house. I joined Scuti a number of months ago, and Scuti is the first ever G-commerce platform and rewards platform for gamers. And in my years, I've seen a lot of different ways that games try to monetize their players. And Scuti, the reason why I joined Scuti, it's the first company that I truly felt like was benefiting the three key stakeholders, right? The publishers and developers, the brands themselves, and most importantly, the gamer. And so I was excited to come on board, and I'm excited to talk to you guys about what we're doing here today and how we can better monetize hyper-casual games.
Great. And then up next is Ekaterina Dekalenkova. Is that correct? I think I said it right.
Yeah.
She is the senior business developer and market analyst at Ketchapp, a part of Ubisoft. How are you doing today?
Great. Very happy to be here. So yeah, I'm Ekaterina, a business developer at Ketchapp, and today I'll have a publisher's take on games. I hope it will be very interesting and insightful.
Great. And then we have ourselves Armin Subasic. He's the lead developer at Monad Games. How are you doing today?
Hello. I'm doing good. Thank you for asking. So, as you said, my name is Armin, and I work for Monad Games. It is a part of MonetizeAd company, which is one of the biggest marketing companies in Southeastern Europe. And I'm here from developers' perspective more than marketing. But our company is specialized in marketing as well, so it's going to be a good.
Yeah, this is going to be good because not only is this going to be about marketing, it's all about also monetization, which I think is a lot of people are going to be asking a lot of big questions about. And by the way, my name is Luke Stapley. I am the marketing director at Cocos, the largest game engine, open source game engine company in the world. You can check up our stuff and download our free game engine to build your games. Anyway, now that we introduced ourselves, let's go ahead and let's start talking about some of the basics. And we can go ahead and start with Krystian on this one. What are some of the things that you think developers should start to look at when they start to add monetization to their game? I think this is something a lot of developers, especially these the indie developers, they kind of they make their game, they think, oh, this is a great game, but then they totally forget, oh, how am I going to make money from this? What are some of the things that you think that they should start to look at? And is it like, should they be looking at this like even before they start building the game, or is it something they should look at once they finish?
So yeah, I think like you need to first kind of divide the game development into like we divided it like in 3 phases. Let's say a demo phase or like alpha game version. Then is like a testing phase with the beta game version, and then the final product stage, right? So I think first it's rather important to add the monetization in the second phase when you're actually testing it. In the first demo phase, developers should focus on core elements like the core loop, gameplay, etc., making it fun and engaging for players, and kind of focusing on this points for at first. But in the testing phase, they can add the monetization. It's very important to add the monetization, see how the monetization is performing, how it's affecting players' engagement, and testing different things. It's actually okay to make some mistakes and test out different monetization models and tactics. And we can see it that with adding content and developing more of the game, of course, some things works better and some things works worse. So it's really depending on your game content of your game. And it's very important to get feedback from your users, from analytics data, and to decide where the monetization should go later in the final product stage. And of course, I think it's very important to work kind of like within the game development team, having like so kind of like 3 parts also, like game development, then having the monetization, and then product positioning. So in this way, you can, let's say, divide it on the 3 different types that your team is doing, and then kind of work all around together, because it's very important to actually target your know where your game is targeting, and of course adjusting the monetization according to your target audience, how they're going to respond to it, and so forth and so forth. And of course, thinking about monetization in the beginning, but not implementing it in the beginning. I think that was my.
That's what she said. Well, Ekaterina, your Ketchapp has been very big into the gaming as well. Is this kind of the, oh, right when I ask, she disappears. That's the, well, then I could ask you, Don, the same question. I mean,
sure.
We've kind of seen that with a lot of the different games is that monetization stage.
Yeah, listen, I think the monetization. Yeah, I would put the monetization stage right up front, right? I mean, first and foremost, you got to create a great game, right? You've got to develop a great game. You've got to develop a game that is entertaining for everyone to play. But I mean, we're all in the world of business, right? And, the one thing I've learned is that if you're building something, you've got to figure out how you're going to monetize that, right? So I truly believe monetization should be in the forefront. It should be right after you build that great game. You've got to figure out what's the best way to monetize that. And I think when you think about that, monetization shouldn't be looked at as a bad word or a bad phrase. It is part of the ecosystem that we're all in. Games are entertainment. Every form of entertainment has an element of monetization to it. I think the most important thing, and it was touched on earlier, is what is the best way to monetize that? And obviously, the best way to monetize a game is in a way that benefits the player themselves, right? And monetization doesn't have to be interruptive. It doesn't have to take away from gameplay. It has got to be additive to the experience. And if it is additive to the experience, we're not going to see the same levels of attrition, right? So from my perspective, if you're thinking about it up front, right, you are thinking about, okay, well, what are the benefits to the player in terms of monetization? I'm going to get something, but I also have to give something back. And that comes in the form of rewards, ads and products and placements within a game that bring value to the gamer or are relevant to the gamer. I think that's the other thing that's incredibly important. But the entire experience has to be a benefit to the gamer. And I think if you're thinking about monetization early on, that's easier to do. If you wait until it's you're trying to, put a round peg in a square hole, then it becomes problematic and it becomes an experience that is bad for the gamer. We don't want that.
Right. So I mean, as a developer who's building games, is this something that happened with you? Is that you put the monetization pretty up close and up front to the development of your game?
So when we make games today, we first of all think about how can we monetize the concept that we're working on. So if we make a concept that we believe that is good, then we immediately start thinking about, okay, so what can we monetize in this content, in this game that we're creating? So what kind of ads we can put, what can we give back to the user? Do we need to have ad aggressive strategy, or are we going more to in-app purchases, or are we going to mix both? But what we noticed, many small developers, like really small developers, teams of 1 to 2 people, they make a game, finish it completely, and then add monetization, which is a problem for them. Because if you don't plan out what you're going to monetize in the game, adding it later on can be really hard. So we are always thinking about, okay, so we see if the concept can actually work as a game, and then immediately think about monetization, work on monetization, not necessarily implement it right away, but think about it. So what can we do and what will we do? So the takeaway point is monetization should really be important as one of the first steps in the development.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of, I can agree with both of you guys, especially with Don, about, having a respect for the gamer. It's like they gave you respect by coming to play your game. You need to give them, show them the respect. It's kind of like when you go to a movie, you spend so much money and then you come in and see it's a terrible movie and walk out. You usually want your money back. So you don't want to have that kind of experience with your games. Like, it's good to, Ekaterina, I wanted to ask you about what are some of the key issues that people should be focusing on to make sure that the monetization isn't affecting the gameplay?
Thank you for your question, and I'm really sorry for the connection issues. There's a construction going on next to us, so it might affect the connection. And yeah, I actually agree with our participants. Thinking about monetization early on is the key. So you should keep in mind, while thinking about your game idea already, what's going to be the things which will be the most interesting for a player to exchange for your rewarded videos, what kind of added value you can add to the process in order to help the player progress. So I would say that ideation should go together with monetization. So you need to think about it from a very start. And of course, as far as implementation is concerned, usually we start implementing it at the LTV stage, when we try to figure out how much money our game is actually able to earn. And of course, we'll see the impact of monetization on our metrics, because we need to place, of course, those interstitials, rewarded videos. We need to place everything in order not to harm the experience. So, but also there is another testing. Basically, some actors on the market are implementing monetization since the very first test, and that's also the way to go, because this will allow you to see actually how and evolve the monetization strategy together with your game. So yeah, the both ways are working, but the earlier you think about how you monetize your game, the better it is.
That is interesting. You're talking about evolving. Armin, you probably have evolved some of your, if you have any good examples of this, you probably have evolved a very basic idea that you had for your monetization into something much more different that actually made a lot more money. Do you have any examples of that?
Well, from our side, I'm not really sure right now.
Okay.
But we're always thinking about what can we do with the monetization to not really just have, okay, you have ads and in-app purchases, but like to make it unique. So what we figured out that it's actually becoming trendy is giving people an option to do something in the game, pay something in the game, or watch an ad for, like, let's say, planting a tree. And that's something new that we discovered that people are doing, and we're starting to do that too. So it's a new thing.
So, Don, you've seen this kind of progression just like I have of how we've gone from a paid product to this free to play advertising, and then we've seen these hybrids. Do you think that there's some kind of this evolution is becoming more and more friendly to the to gamers, and because of their becoming more friendly to gamers, that's why we're getting so much more money coming out? I mean, I remember all the frustration with horse armor back in the old days, and how incredibly petty it was. And now it seems like gamers are open to watching a video just to win some kind of monetization.
I think the gamers have truly evolved. I think the industry has evolved. The gamers are understanding that monetization is what is providing them their form of entertainment. And I think we need to continue to evolve the way we engage the gamers, right? And so I remember back in the day where in order to put a brand in a game, I mean, that was a true undertaking, right? Because you had to physically hard code a brand into a game, right? We've been able to move away from that and become more dynamic, but ads are still interrupting the experience, right? And so I think what we're trying to do and what we are doing currently at Scuti is creating an experience and creating an environment where gamers are not interrupted by the ads. And we are creating a marketplace to allow gamers to get rewards for taking actions. And when I say create a marketplace, we're allowing gamers to actually take an action that they're going to take every single day. And it's buying physical products. And the ability to buy a physical product in the lobby of a game is something that nobody has done before. And that adds monetization back to the publisher and the developer. It adds an element of giving the gamers what they want, what they're going to do anyway, and it is non-interruptive. And then finally, you're rewarding them for that, right? So I think the evolution of monetizing games has come a long way, and it is continuing to evolve. And I think it's incredibly important for the monetization to be there, the opportunities for gamers to engage and be rewarded for the actions they take, whether it be from finishing a level or watching ads. It's incredibly important that we continue to make monetization part of the experience and not a separate experience that's jammed in. And if we can continue to do that, we're all going to benefit.
Right. I see that with a lot of new different ideas. I mean, Krystian, there's probably some brand new ideas that people are having with the way they're monetizing their games to get more people to play and more people to watch those ads or to spend money. Do you have any examples or ideas about what's new that's becoming trendy?
It's new that it's becoming trendy. I mean, there's many different things that we're trying right now, and as even Don from Scuti here, they're implementing quite interesting things. I mean, right now, it really depends like what type of game you have, right? So the game genre you have, of course, the more hyper casual game you have, the more ads you can in place, right? And you can show more ads, and people are more, willing to actually watch the ads. And the more hardcore, mid-core-ish it gets, the more you need to be focused on AAPs. But recently, we can see that AAPs is actually the AAP revenue. It's growing like. Whenever we didn't, especially the growth is quite visible in the hyper casual or casual scene. And I mean, this is, in my opinion, like Survivor.io, it's a great example, which is like a casual game with very simple mechanics, but they have quite a lot of content within it, and they're like surrounding that content. So let's say like I'm like average player, not the worst player, not the best player either. And well, in this game, I'm still kind of dying in a very similar moment. So they actually, but the game is quite engaging and quite rewarding that I still want to play. I still keeps dying under that 8 minutes or 9 minutes. And there's nothing I can do. But still, I mean, the game is encouraging me actually try different things. Either I grind and I just watch the ads, or I don't pay, right? Or I make some in-app purchasing to help me a little bit in my game, right? So I think implementing more in-app purchases of different ways, like, I don't know, adding some live ops to it, or trying with season passes. This is a great way to actually engage with the users, especially live ops with it. But of course, you need to be aware of your game content and where you should add them. This is very crucial thing. So the players still enjoy the game, and and they get rewarded from that.
All right, Ekaterina, you're working at Ketchapp, which is one of the larger developers here. Are they being a lot more experimental in the way that they're monetizing? I mean, we talk about trends with the smaller groups that are given an opportunity to try many things, but what about at Ketchapp?
Yeah, since the market is getting more challenging, we are forced to take more experiments to A/B test more of the placements of our ads. Also, like some axiomas which we're working in hyper casual before they are taken for granted anymore. So, for example, like a game can have a high CPI, and if a couple of years ago it would be an instant kill, nowadays we need to verify maybe in-game KPIs are enough to compensate for that. And we had like plenty of games like Blitz, for example, which were able to monetize despite the very high CPI. So we were targeting basically less. The game was less mainstream, but it had fewer users. But those users were so engaged, they liked the game so much that it was able to generate an LTV of over $1, for example, at some point. So and also we see a lot of industry players experimenting with different ad formats, for example, with audio ads or with blended in advertisement. And that's very curious to see, because a lot of people claim that they're able to boost your revenue without actually harming the in-game experience. And we can see as well that people are trying to amortize the impact of interstitials as well. So you can see interstitials are harming the retention the most. And some industry players are warning the players now that there'll be an interstitial in like 1, 2, 3 seconds, etc., which already softens the experience up. Or they can even go further and make like a rewarded interstitial, which is a completely new format, like completely new way of showing an interstitial, which wasn't here 1 year ago. And it's somehow like a rewarded video, even, which you don't choose to launch it, but still it makes the player less annoyed, and the retention way less.
Yeah, we're creating rewarded interstitials at Scuti, and the key to our rewarded interstitials is we're gamifying the ad, and a player can interact with that ad, but they're not taken out of the gaming experience, which I think is incredibly important. And the problem that we've seen, or I've seen with interstitials, is that if a player does engage, they're taken away from the gaming experience, and then they've got to figure out how to find their way back. And that's just an awful experience. So I love the idea of rewarded interstitials, but I think it's really important that those rewarded interstitials can't take you away from the game itself. It cannot eject you from the experience that you're there to play and be entertained by that game.
Yeah, I think that's been a big issue with a lot of these interstitials or these rewarded games, is that they want you to download another app while you're playing another game. So it becomes, and so that becomes a bigger question, I think, with a lot of questions that people have about monetization, is will there be opportunities where we'll start to see, and I know that we're starting to see this with some companies, but we'll start to see companies like Disney or Coca-Cola or Nike coming in and starting to have their own interstitial ads coming in, where you don't actually have to leave the gameplay, but you get to see the ad and understand it kind of like a TV show commercial. These are some things that I've been looking at and hoping that comes up. We've had that come up a little bit back in the old days with Flash games, but never hasn't really caught on with hyper casual. Armin, what are some of the things that you guys are doing that are brand new that you think are really savvy and not many other people are trying?
I'm not sure. I don't know how many people are working with echo rewards, but that's what we're going to do in the new game. Also, so not only like when someone says echo, they mean like trees and stuff. But we're planning to, as we discussed before with our team, we're planning to have like charities and trees and stuff like that to make sure 1% goes to the revenue and 1% of the revenue goes to that. But it's still experimental, and we really don't know if that's going to be a good way or not. But we're trying it out, and we will see if that's going to be. Also, we noticed that many people are now talking about those sound ads, so where you are not interrupted by an ad, but you're actually listening to the sound. So we're also trying that, but it's still just experimental, so we don't know anything if it's going to be like explode or just fail.
Yeah, charity
it's all
ads
new.
have actually, yeah, charity ads have been around for a while. Back in, like I said, with Flash, I remember there were some charitable advertising for some of the games. But yeah, that is actually a really cool idea, having an ability to watch an ad to get a tree in the game, but also some of the percentage of the reward that you got would be going towards the charity. I think that's probably one of the more interesting with things I've heard about monetization these last few years. Ekaterina, I wanted to ask, is there any common missed opportunities that developers are not taking advantage of right now with the opportunities of monetization?
I would actually point out two main ones. So first, I would say it's a mistake on the product level. So when, for example, you create a game where the session length is too big, and basically the player cannot just open the game and do something quickly in it. The session is too long, so he's disappointed. He doesn't progress. He can do some small stuff and just close the app. And on the opposite side, you have games which basically push away the player because after a while there is nothing to do in it. So those both product mistakes are quite crucial, because like we of course need to remember all the time that the longer we keep the player in our game, the better it is, and that the cumulative time matters. So your game needs to be built in a way that it can serve both needs. Basically, the player can either open and do something really small and really close the app, or if he wants to, he needs to always have something to do within your game. This is like the product mistake. And of course, like very common one, it's the mistake on the monetization strategy. Sometimes developers and publishers, they don't choose the right strategy for the product. They just either try to implement something which has been working for years, like shops, skins, something very traditional, and unfortunately the player gets tired of it, and nowadays it works less and less. Or on the opposite side as well, they try to see some new features and blindly implement it into their game. And when it doesn't fit the gameplay, when it doesn't fit the content, it doesn't have any effect. So it's very important to really think, to ask yourself why your player would need your help, on what he would need your help, and what's the key progression element. Is it time? Is it like going further, or is it getting stronger, or is it like getting, I don't know, bigger, for example? Like your monetization features needs to be always very core gameplay, and that's a point which a lot of developers miss out. So I would say that please make games which are both good in short term and in long term playing session, and as well customize your monetization strategy for your particular gameplay.
Yeah, I can see that because I know in the old days when I first was working with the hyper casual people, a lot of them were talking about if I could just get 3 days, uh, I'll be making so much money. But I think we've kind of moved toward from this very hyper casual to more of a hybrid casual, where we're adding the hyper casual for those first 3 days, but then, like you said, building upon for those who want to actually play it for 7, 10, 30 days, what we can do to grow that. Have you seen that kind of as well, Don, in this industry?
Yeah, and I was just thinking, as Ekaterina was talking, right, one of the things that we've created is an opportunity for gamers to come into a game and just click on our Scuti button, our marketplace button, and achieve rewards. The publisher and the developer generates revenue from that. The gamer has come in, they've received some rewards, and it's a small interaction that a player can have, right? So a player being able to go in and do something very quickly within a game, be satisfied with that interaction, and everybody waiting from that player getting rewards and the publisher generating revenue from that as part of the marketing strategy, I think is incredibly important. And one of the things that we've made a focus of what we're doing at Scuti. So I do see the need for developers to look for ways to create engaging experiences that are both long and shorts, and what are some of the things that they can do that include monetization that will keep players playing their game longer, right? And it comes back to the rewards that they're generating. And the more you play, the more rewards you get, the more time in a given section. But it's also, we cannot forget the gamer who just wants to, spend a couple minutes, spend a couple, a very short period of time and be able to get rewarded for that short period of time. And so we have absolutely come up with a solution for both sides of that.
Yeah, I think that's kind of how it's kind of grown. We've kind of had this kind of, we need to have a hybrid approach for both of these. Armin, I wanted to ask you, because we're almost at the end of the year. You're probably going to be making a lot of new games for 2023. Are you excited about what's going on in 2023, not only as a game developer, but in the monetization of your games?
Definitely, yeah. So even though the market is getting more and more competitive and harder to actually get successful in, I think that this year is going to be a good one, because we're going to probably have a lot of new things to make and do, both in terms of monetization and in terms of development. So a lot of experimentation, I think, for both smaller and bigger teams.
Is that the same feeling for you, Krystian, as well?
For 2023?
Yeah,
it looks very promising. I mean, it's all changing quite quickly, and we're trying different ad formats, as we say, like, splash ads or interstitial rewarded. And I can see that I think we're less pushy on intrusive when it comes to ads. I mean, with hyper casual some time ago, I mean, it was pushing so much of it, and now it's trying to go into more rewards and kind of rewarding people with their gameplay and what they want to try, putting more placements like that, try some new skin, give them some boosts, trying different props, and evolving that game. So that's why the games aren't that simple as it used to be. I think, like, the content of it's increasing, and therefore we can see in hybrid casual like that as well. So that's a good thing we have. I mean, on the market, we can see, especially in hyper casual, there's less new games, but the games that are currently they're more complex and there's more depth in it. So that's more rewarding for gamers. Of course, we can still have hyper casual, games that are very simple to master and very casual to play, but still, like, adding more content and adding more stuff in it, and then keep these players longer. It's a good way, instead of focusing on quantity and pushing many different demos. It's just focus on quality, how we can keep that players longer staying, what else we can add that's not going to be too complex, and mess up with everything, because some people say like, oh, let's add this and this and this, and it just turns up more mid-core. But instead of focus on the main gameplay that you have, if the people want to just match free elements, just give them different reasons to do so. If it's finding a difference game, giving different reasons, different scenes, different ways to compete with others, so adding some live ops. I think that's a good way to just just focus on really your core gameplay, your core loop, instead of like finding and adding some things and being like this kind of overweight game that can barely move and it's pretty confusing, right? So I mean, focus is a good thing.
Ekaterina, what are you excited about the challenges for 2023?
Well, I'm afraid and excited at the same time, since apparently that's the like the hyper casual peaked, and now we have a slowdown of downloads. But that's not the reason to be sad. That's the new challenge to prepare for. Well, also we can say that hyper casual is becoming more various. So there's still some space for simulation games, for more like contemplative experience. Meanwhile, it really grew up into a lot of different subgenres like idle arcades, or now we have hybrid casual. And the problem is like the borders between those subgenres are quite vague. So that basically means that we can't blindly apply some preconceived statements which we developed during 3 years in this industry, because it used to be more simple. We could have treated each game the same way. We could have streamlined our strategy on everything. Like, I don't know, we have a low CPI, good retention, let's go and stuff. But nowadays, like, your game might be more niche, or it can be still very universal. So depending on what kind of data you receive from your tests, you need to be first of all ready to pivot towards something different. And of course, IB tests, like, and in monetization, it really matters. Like the metric which is super important nowadays is the CTR of your rewarded video placement. So without that, it will be hard to monetize. You need to understand why exactly this feature, etc. And in 2023, I believe that it's gonna even grow in its importance. Of course, we'll see more in-app purchases, like Krystian mentioned, because we are moving towards hybrid. And of course, in each hyper-casual game, there is a tiny fraction of players which are ready to pay, but they are ready, and we can't miss out on that. So instead of typical, for example, ad removal purchases, we can add some bundles or some VIP passes. To be creative on that, it's the key. Also, it's crucial to keep an eye on all the novelties, monetization. So on new sources of traffic acquisition, on new channels, new ad formats. That's the key to success. And well, I mean, hyper casual have been existing for a long time, and it didn't have really like very calm time. And I think that 2023 will be also the continuation of this exciting journey.
Yeah, I remember everybody was saying, "Oh, after in 2019 they were saying, oh, hyper casual is going to die. We're not going to have any more hyper casual." And then we had COVID hit, and then all of a sudden everybody was home, and hyper casual just got an even bigger boost. So it always seems to be that one thing that people are always saying, it's gonna end soon, and it just never ends. Don, I mean, you probably have seen as much as I have that the industry is going to be going down at the end of this year. It's looking like most of the places are going down. Are you excited about the challenge of 2023? Do you think things are going to start to improve? And
I'm incredibly excited about the challenge of 2023, right? I think from a hyper casual games perspective, from a games perspective, from a monetization perspective, I think we are at a period of time where things are going to begin to change positively, right? We're going to be able to create custom monetization experiences, game by game, publisher by publisher. I think the reward systems is going to become much more beneficial to the player itself. I think that is going to help and differentiates the top playing games versus the games that aren't played as much. I think the developers and the publishers are smarter about the types of games that they're putting out there, and as they think about, okay, what is the long-term plan for this game? And from a guy who's been on the business side for 20 plus years, what really excites me is that the advertising world, they've always kind of looked at gaming with a little bit cross-eyed, like how do we get in front of this audience in a smart and effective way? And I think large agency holding companies are now starting to develop teams within there to really look at the game space as a whole, the industry as a whole, including hyper casual, as a way to get their brands in front of this audience. So that's something that is really beginning to evolve and take shape. And I think it's a great opportunity to really, for all of us to be smart about how we think about what's the product we're putting out there, how are we going to best monetize that problem? And if we are doing both of those things right, we are benefiting the player, we are rewarding the player like they've never been rewarded before. And we're creating an experience that benefits everybody. So I'm incredibly excited about 2023.
I hope so. Yeah.
Oh, you mentioned that, the data is decreasing, or, it's shrinking a bit. I mean, you can see some very challenges in 2022, but I think everybody needs to pay attention that, the COVID and pandemic thing just speed up everything so much. So let's say it was like a mountain. It was just going really quickly, and was like, before at that time was more than we can imagine. And now we kind of see like stabilizing kind of like it. But if you check the data from a couple of years, you can see that actually we're on the point. Like, this is how it's supposed to grow. Like, it's just the COVID just speed up everything, but just generally by the things, like, we're more or less on the point. And for example, comparing to last 2 quarters, the data, we can see that there is a growth. So there won't be like sudden peaks or like changes like the COVID bring. I hope not. I mean, I'm not a prophet, but
yeah.
I mean, we can
don't
see
need
that
another one.
Exactly, we don't know the other one, but we can see that it's stabilizing, and looking from data quarter on quarter, it's growing, and it's going to be promising in new year. So with the new ideas coming in new year, and yes, I think there's a good promise. So don't give up on game development.
Oh, no. Trust me, I am game development for life. So, but I've been working with all the different groups, both hyper casual, AAA. It's great to talk to them, and some of them are having a little bit of a challenge, but I know that this industry is continuing to grow comparative to other entertainment industries, and so I'm always excited and always thankful that I'm part of this industry. But I do have a question for you then, Krystian. You said you're looking at all the data. What is the data that you're hyper focused on when you're looking at your monetization?
The cost of UA, like this is not really promising, to be honest. Like, let's say the cost of UA is increasing quite dramatically, and it's getting more and more harder to. Of course, the CPIs are hiring, and even hyper casual can see quite a lot of increase with that. But the revenue, it's not growing that much. I mean, CPM is not growing as quickly as it should be regarding the UA. Right, so of course we can see a little bit of shift like into AAPs, adding a little bit more content, giving that different subscriptions to live ops and other things to it. So I will pay attention more to how we do the UA, and trying different ways. I think all of kind of platforms are good, like Google, Facebook, or TikTok. You just need to have a specific strategy regarding to it, right? In Google, you can do more broad audience, just do in the whole world. When in Facebook, you can, or TikTok, you can analyze your ad creatives very well, and you can target specific audience. So, I mean, changing that, and I think teams need to set there a good KPI. Like, I think a lot of people are kind of misunderstanding the monetization as getting as much money as I can get, and adding some stuff there. rather than just check your UI, what is your CPI, what is your retention, what is your engagement, right? And trying to add a specific monetization that will fit that audience. Like, don't be too intrusive so you lose the players, but be enough intrusive so you can make some money, right? So kind of like balance it out. I mean, this is very important. And I think UA is a very good point of start that, okay, this is how it costs, how much I should make money, how long that my retention engagement should be, right? And then trying to engage in analyzing your data and engaging users in this area that they're interested in, that they're staying, and so on.
Yeah, we've been very focused on user acquisition as well at Scuti, right? And we have a built-in user acquisition model, right? For every game that is part of the Scuti network, right? We have created a place where those gamers can go and find other games that are part of the Scuti network. And so you can take our rewards and move them from game to game, right? So we are helping in that user acquisition. We're also helping in the retention because, again, it comes back to, I think retention stays key when you're rewarding players for at every opportunity that you can, and not using interstitial ads as a way to eject them from the game, right? And so we really have focused, and our company is built by, many, top game executives who all have 20 plus years of experience. And we've kind of looked at this and we've created a world where it is about retention for the games. It is about rewards for the gamers. And with that, we have also created a user acquisition platform so that every gamer can see all the games that are part of the Scuti network, and take their points and go use them in those games. So we feel like we've created this wonderful little ecosystem for all the publishers and developers that are working with Scuti.
Armin, what about you? What are you like super hyper focused on for your monetization? Which data points?
So at the moment we're focused on the paying users. So for the game, for a few games that we're creating so far, we're taking a look at how many people are actually engaged in purchases more than ads. But we're also tracking when it comes to actually evaluating how many monetized users we have. We have certain events that we track ourselves to see if people are actually going to use our to click on those ads or not, even if so we're pretty much looking at what can we do to improve the clickability of an ad in the game. And so far we were using how can I say it to explain that, pretty much we test our games with monetization already in, and that way we can see if our monetization is maybe good or maybe not, because when we test one thing we can also test the monetization with the game itself. That's what I meant to say.
Okay.
Now, it's not for every project, but it's not for every project, but it depends on what the game is, but usually,
Yeah, we talk. Yeah, when I was working in the when I went to a couple of game conferences in the old days, because Don's the only one that's been in it longer than I have. I've been in the industry for over 10 years. We were talking about PC casual games, and they had just started looking at these games that were coming out for Android and iOS, and they were talking about what was the big numbers that they were looking at for a successful game, and it was always about stickiness, which is the DAU over MAU, and how sticky they are. And they felt that those games that had a very high stickiness percentage were games that people were playing. And I can kind of see what you're trying to say, Armin, is you're saying we have a lot of people playing, but if they're not going to these special events, then we know they're not excited about being part of this game, or they're just playing it, and it's going to be very difficult for us to get some kind of monetization out of it. And I see that as a really interesting, different way of doing things. I haven't heard about that as a way. But well, what a lot of developers, I think that you're right, a lot of them don't understand is that there are a lot of ways you can track what people are doing, and using that kind of data to give you an understanding of like where people are monetized, where are people clicking on the ads. Is it during a very difficult level? Is it during a boss fight where they need an extra weapon? It's those kind of things that kind of help you to figure out and understand like what can we do to help make these opportunities better. Or looking at like, oh, everybody dies on level 5, maybe we need to do something that will give us opportunities to monetize for that. How about you, Ekaterina? What are some of the data points that you're looking at Ketchapp?
For us, the main number we are focusing on is always the profit. What hyper casual is about big volumes all the time, but there are a lot of stuff people are chasing the big volumes, and it's cannibalizing the profits. So something we try to avoid. Profitable in certain countries on certain volumes, and we would like to give a chance to those games, since the developer earns money and we are earning money only when the game is profitable. And yeah, of course, this is number one thing. Also, I would say that since less and less things in hyper casual can be taken for granted, and you need to think over every reflex you acquired while being in this industry. We are investing a lot in research, so we try to explain to everyone who's working on the game and to the community what is monetization about, what are the factors which are impacting it, like psychology of the players, because a lot of rewarded video systems, they are basically relying on psychology of the players, when to suggest them the opportunity to get some item, how to do it. Also, the role of emotions is super important. Case studies, etc. So we're trying to compile it on all into the presentations which are digestible, really self-explanatory, and share it with everyone basically who touches the game, from developer to publishing manager to UA team to monetization team, game designers. Everyone should understand what is it about, at least maybe not, if not in detail, but in a from a bird's eye view. So because if the players, if the game makers understand how those mechanisms of nudging players to watch advertisement are working, then on every level we'll be already prepared for delivering a game which is optimized for monetization. So the developer will think about the better content, how to make it. The publishing manager will try to keep an eye on it and nudge him into the right direction. And those cumulative effort will result in a way that we are all working towards the same strategy, which is optimized from a data standpoint and from psychology of a player's standpoint. So yeah, I would say that profit and research are our main focuses.
Ah, interesting. Well, so many different focuses. Well, we are almost out of time. We have about 5 minutes, so I thought I'd maybe ask all of you one final question, and that would be if you could give all of these people listening to this show, this conference talk, one piece of advice, what would that be? And I guess Krystian, what kind of advice would you give people?
Oh, this is too open topic. I mean, there's so many advices to do.
Well, about just on monetization. We'll
Yeah,
go there.
I mean, on monetization, of course. Well, I know there's like different ways I mean, the AAPs are, of course, been paying more and more. Everybody's paying more attention to it, and the revenue is going up. But I think like still a lot of games genres are focusing on ads, and of course, you need to understand like what is basically average proportion of AAA to AAPs for your game genre, and it kind of like, let's say, focusing on that, making of course some market research regarding it, and of course if ads is your main kind of way to monetize, trying to not be intrusive. And I think I see so many developers that have a good game, they put in a lot of ads, and they're not setting everything well in a monetization platform. I mean, they either decided like, okay, let's just use Unity because it's there and it's just very simple, or they're using some very complex tool that they're using at 10% of it. And it's like, I mean, just by setting these platforms properly, you can just add an extra 10, 20, 30% of your revenue that might help you to get a positive ROI, right? Or earning finally on your game. So, instead of, I think going back to the basics, I think this is my suggestion. Instead of like finding new ways, or maybe add this content or having this one, of course, it's a great ideas as well. But let's see right now if everything's performing okay, and check if you can monetize better, adding specific ad networks, adding bidding, biddings that people are not so familiar with. We're adding properly, of course, waterfall and so on, and kind of trying to maximize your revenue from there. Having the game that you have, and without that much effort, you can still up your revenue.
Don, do you have any advice as well?
Yeah, I mean, my advice would be to partner with companies that are going to help you be thoughtful of the user experience, be thoughtful of the gamer, provide rewards as part of monetization. Don't interrupt the gaming experience, be additive to the gaming experience, but ultimately just keep being thoughtful of the gamer. And what they're there to do, and they're there to play games, right? And as developers, as publishers, we all need to monetize those experiences. So how do we do that best serves the gamer? That is what I hope everybody leaves here with today.
Good. Ekaterina, do you have any advice before we go out?
Sure. So I would say that we hear it a lot, but again, I would point out it once more. Every time when you make a hyper casual game, even nowadays, especially nowadays, you must A/B test everything, or at least if you don't have time, if you don't have resources, the key features linked to core gameplay and to monetization, of course, and customize your monetization strategy to your particular game, so it leverages all of its most interesting places, so it leverages all the good KPIs of this game, and apart from this quite obvious part, I would encourage you to be curious, to experiment, to learn more information which is outside of the scope of your field. If you're a developer, dig into marketing. If you are a marketer, go dig into development and how to use Unity. Go on TikTok, draw your inspiration from other game genres. So stay open, like talk to people who are from outside of your industry. Maybe one day you will have this brilliant idea which you can implement in your game. Just try to keep yourself neuroplastic, so to say.
Great. Armin, what about you? You got the last one.
Yeah, so from the developer's perspective, like I would say experiment, of course, if you feel like it. But most importantly, don't forget to think about monetization early on. So after you create your concept, after you see that concept can work, can be marketable, then go ahead and think about monetization. Don't put monetization on the last step. Don't try making your game first, then adding monetization and all of those stuff, because it will just make your life harder and everything. So yeah, my general advice is think about monetization when you start creating your game, and experiment. Who knows what can be made if you experiment.
Great. And my last piece of advice for everybody is just, take those experiments, those failures that you have, and use them as experiences for the next time. Sometimes those failures may come up and give you great ideas about what to do in the future, or maybe they'll help you to not make them again in the future when you're with new opportunities that you get in the future. So that's all I can say. Thank you guys so much for coming, and I'm so grateful that we had these great people here. I want to thank Ekaterina Dekalenkova from Ketchapp. I hope I got it right this time. Armin Subasic from Monad Games at MonetizeAd, Don Reilley from Scuti, and Krystian Strauss from OpenMediation. Thank you so much for coming, and I hope you guys had a wonderful time listening to us, and hope you guys have a continual fun time at this great conference. So you guys have a great day, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.